So when I did my bachelor's, I realized that, I can't completely rely on UPSC, although I have, complete passion and interest towards it. Uh, I also have to take care of my career and, have to be more cautious and conscious of how my career would lead. While I, didn't clear them, the whole process and journey gave
Mhm.
me a strong grounding in policy, governance, so societal success. All that is good.
Mhm.
One most important realization I've got about myself is where my strength lies. No matter where I go, my aim has always been, no matter how small the contribution is, mm, the change when it is visible, that is good for me.
Thank you so much, Yash, for joining or agreeing to join in this podcast. And thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast. And many congratulations for landing with a communications role with a leading nonprofit based out of Mumbai. When I first came to know about this role, I got really interested to sort of know more about it, talk to you, because this is one area I don't see a lot of people going in. And thank you so much for your time. I guess we will have opportunities as part of this conversation to deep dive into your journey and also this role. Yeah. So, Yash, I was going through your profile when you sort of told me that you've got into this role. And I see that you mention or you describe yourself as someone who is working at the intersection of communication, research, and social impact. These three are really credible, important, and heavy words when it comes to the entire policy landscape. So, can you please talk about two things? A, about this role, and also like when did you sort of realize that this is where you belong?
So I think I'll have to go a little back
Mhm.
to kind of explain where I am.
Sure.
So to start with, growing up, I always saw UPSC as the ultimate goal for me. So
Mhm.
I naturally aligned my education and career thinking around that.
Mhm.
So I did my bachelor's in literature, and then I later realized the importance, of having a parallel skill set. So that is why which led me to pursue a master's in communication. So this is where it started to address the first point, communications. So during
Okay,
my
sorry. I would interrupt you over here, but let's just talk a little bit about this aspect, Yash. So you mentioned UPSC was something which you always wanted to do, maybe, school, etc. You sort of had that thing, which many people in India have. So completely understandable. Okay, so UPSC is one thing which made you maybe consider communications as an academic qualification, right? Uh, you said that you wanted to add another sort of dimension to your profile, but was there anything beyond UPSC which made you pursue this particular, qualification from an academics perspective? So, just for our audience, you hold a bachelor's degree in English literature and a
literature.
master's degree in mass communication.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
So talking simply in from a job or career perspective, UPSC is a big game.
Mhm.
It's a rare thing to crack in a year or two.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when I did my bachelor's, I realized that, I can't completely rely on UPSC, although I have, complete passion and interest towards it. Uh, I also have to take care of my career and, have to be more cautious and conscious of how my career would lead. So when when I've realized that, I thought I should have a master's degree in something where there are opportunities to grow and So it took me, so it brought me down to few degrees, master's degrees. Out of it, I saw mass communication degree is something that, you know, that would be effective for me, considering my interest in media or photography or, visual storytelling.
Got it.
So that is where that is why I chose masters in communications.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So how does this journey look like a master's in communication to a communications role with a leading nonprofit?
Uh, it's it's been quite satisfactory, as I mentioned. I have never thought I would work in an uh, you know com I mean, there was a time I have been very clueless and, thought, I might not get to face such a day that I'm living. So this has been quite uh, satisfactory, I would say.
Okay, great. So again, going back to my first question, yes, let's talk a little bit about this particular role which you are in. You describe yourselves on LinkedIn as someone who is working at the intersection of communication, research, social impact. Talk a little bit about how does the three heavy keywords in the policy space blend in a right manner in your role, in your current role.
So, research and communication is something I've garnered interest. I've developed a strong interest during my postgraduate studies. So, development communication, when I got to know how, communication can influence real world outcomes, or, especially in public systems, and the kind of weightage a research carries in, carrying public a policy or a system. So those two intrigue me. Although I'm doing a master's in communication, somehow back of my mind, I always, try to look from, UPSC or administrative background as well. So that is where have developed a strong interest in communication and research. And to address the third big word, social impact. I don't know. I mean, it's not like I want to do charity or something, but it's a very selfish reason that no matter how small contribution I do, I should be able to see a visible change. So that makes me feel good. So that's a completely selfish reason. So my no matter where I go, my aim has always been, no matter how small the contribution is, mm, the change when it is visible, that is good for me. So that's where I started. That is where I'm working on. I think that's where I'm pretty confident I'll work on too. So this is how the journey, it's not a one time, decision, but a gradual transition, and multiple incidents that happened, made me brought me these three words into my life, if I can say in simple line.
Great, sounds good. Yes. Let's talk about UPSC. You mentioned that you have prepared for UPSC. So how did that journey and the kind of learnings you have had from that journey contributed towards, you deciding to get or deciding to sort of work at the intersection of communications, which is your inherent strength, we understand, and social impact. Like, was there a particular impact of that journey? If yes, in what shape and form?
So after postgrad, it's a no-brainer for me. After postgrad, I thought I'll do UPSC. I've started my preparation in 2023. So since then I've been preparing. So to answer your question, uh, I'm very grateful to UPSC for what it has taught me, not in terms of academics or, subject wise, but in terms of, If I can put it in simple terms, in life wise. So while the preparation, the journey, the process, I've attempted two UPSC prelims, civil services prelims, and I've given one state PCS uh, mains exam. While I, didn't clear them, the whole process and journey gave
Mhm.
me a strong grounding in policy, governance, so societal structures. All that is good.
Mhm.
One most important realization I've got about myself is where my strength lies. So over time, I've got more clear where my strengths lies, more on the communication and implementation side of development rather than administration. So it started with that. So I think that answers the question.
Of
So
course, of course. So
yeah.
during the journey, you sort of realize that, look, administration might not be my cup of tea, communication might, right?
Yes.
And what was this point, where you realized that, look, okay, yes, UPSC was a goal. UPSC was something I wanted to get into in childhood. But now I think, there are more, meaningful careers we had, and, the entire journey of realization you talked about. So what was that inflection point where you decided that, look, now I'm gonna be looking for careers outside UPSC. UPSC thing is now done. And it was a beautiful journey. I got my learnings, but now I want to look for other things, as part of my career.
So before starting UPSC, I've decided one thing. Uh, I don't know how I'm going to do it or where I'm going to do it, but I pretty much decided when I should stop it.
Ah,
So I've decided I'll give 2 or 3 years, no matter how hard I work. No, if because at the end UPSC is luck is one major factor that plays, in UPSC qualification. So that is something I've decided. I've been conscious about it. So even if I put 120% of my potential into it and it doesn't happen in 2 or 3 years, I've decided that I should step out and look beyond UPSC. So that is something I've realized. And based on that, I planned out my journey in UPSC.
got it, got it. Makes sense, yes. Cool. So also tell us a little bit about, when did rebounds came into your journey? What made you sort of go for us, or what made you to sort of enroll with rebounds? And how was your entire experience? What role did we play in terms of your journey, your career?
So I think it's in 2025, uh, post June. I didn't clear UPSC. I'm clueless. I didn't clear civil services prelims exam. Uh, I'm clueless. I didn't know what to do. As my plan goes, I know I should, look beyond UPSC. So I started looking for, what kind of roles I can get into. So at that time, all the jobs, that matches my role. With my little knowledge, I only thought, something like a content writing role or a marketing role only suits me. But I didn't want to do that. Somewhere, it didn't align with my interests. So somewhere in LinkedIn, I saw a post about a Zoom session that is happening. About you know how to get into field or how to get a job after UPSC break. So I thought, okay, let's try it. करके I joined. I'm I'm not sure. I think it's in September. If I'm
Sure.
August or September, there was one session happened, took by you, and post one, I've also joined in one session that took by Jigyasu. So after the two sessions, after looking at it, I've gone through everything. I've gone through Rebounce website. I've gone through every each and every program or I've, you're providing. I've checked. I've talked to you. In one session, I there was this doubt clearing session happened. In that session, I went all in. I asked numerous questions because I'm an overthinker by default. So before deciding something, I overthink a lot. So I've asked numerous questions. I That is where like after deciding, like after look analyzing, I think I thought joining in Rebounds would be a best case, best option for me, considering the gap I have, considering the skill set that is lacking in me. Uh, so that is where I decided, joining in Rebounds would really help me. So that's how it started. So
Sure. Interesting story. Yes. Thanks for that. So, in can you please talk a little bit also about what next? Like whatever small role we have played in your journey, would you like to talk a little bit about that just for our audience? How this particular decision of yours further pushed you towards getting into a role working at the intersection of communications and impact.
okay, excuse me. So when I joined Rebounds, and the first class took by Akshat, um, you were telling the structure of the program, how it is, designed, and I was very excited. So because I get to learn from a policy perspective, I get to learn program implementation, starting from program design to implementation to development and then impact. So and evaluation. So this is a 360 degrees of public policy. So I was very excited to learn. When I started, you started from small things like theory of change or logical framework. So that really got me excited. I started learning, and beyond class, I started researching about it. Uh, I tried to apply the same theory in practicality wise. I try to apply it on ground, how how a policy or a scheme, when it is implemented, how it is going to be. So this is where I started. I think I should be very thankful to Rebounds in that matter, because it helped me further validate my interest in development communication, but at the same time, it gave me a broader view, uh, sort of like an aerial view of everything that goes in and out of public policy. So that is something I'm grateful of learning from Rebounds.
Thank you so much, Yash. I think theory of change is the fundamental concept around which, if not all, then a majority of all things in public policy sort of evolve. Great, sounds good. So let's talk about this particular domain or area of public policy, which is essentially communications and policy or impact, right? Uh, I know you are still new to your role. It's been what, maybe 1.5, 2 months, but um, there are many people still in the market who are riding the same boat as maybe you were riding um, 1 year back, or maybe more recently, 6 months back as well. So people who want to know more about communications and impact side of things, uh, how would you describe this particular area? in your own understanding, like what is this area about? What kind of work do you do in this area? And what kind of careers you can make out of this area? I know career is a really early thing to talk about, but just based on your initial thoughts. Right.
So I'll try to use the word development communication here
Sure.
because that sorts of be more relevant and aligns with the field. So in my understanding, development communication is kind of the use of communication to support social or and development goals. So it's not just about spreading information, uh, but about influencing, bringing out awareness, bringing out the attitudes change and change in behaviors, that improves outcomes. So, for example, in public health, uh, it's not enough to just provide services. You have uh, health itself is a very sensitive subject. So people need to understand, trust, and actually, use them. So that's where I think development communication as an aspect plays a major role in policy. So
Got it. So it's
yeah,
actually about making people aware of
yes,
various things. So awareness have a very important role when it comes to development
develop,
communication.
yes,
Or as we say it, information, education, communication,
communicate,
IEC, right? So
yes.
education is the fulcrum of communication, information and education. Okay, got it. So Yash, if someone wants to get into this area, what are some of the things people should be conscious about? What are some of the things people might proactively look towards, maybe thinking or developing in your opinion?
Uh, so you don't have to learn technicalities of it as far as you are thinking straight. Your goal, as Akshat mentioned, information, education, communication. Don't look at it from a technical perspective. Think about the words from a layman's perspective. It's just a structured approach used in development to move people from an awareness to understanding to action. So so it's not just about informing people but helping them to make decisions and adopt behaviors. So you should think from that perspective. So when you uh, design a poster or when you write a line, so back of the mind, which doesn't limit to back of the mind, but you should always be conscious of the fact that whenever you're writing a line, a small line also, you have to think that, what kind of value or weight that this line carries in terms of changing behaviors and changing behaviors and attitudes, particularly in Indian context, is very important. So in that terms, you should you don't have to learn big technical terms. It's just that you should make your uh, first make your thinking straight, that what's the weight of your pen or your words carry, or your design visual elements. So once that is done, coming to technicalities, you should write in a way that not just to impress, but to make the reader understand the impact. So you should learn your way of writing, and second, you should learn the technicalities of design. You don't have to big uh, designer, because that's not what we do. You have to, because sometimes not everything can be put it into words. So you'll also have to think that from visual perspective, how certain designing, or a simple poster making, or a simple banner, how that could lead to a big change. So in terms of visual elements, you should think how a small simple design can make an impact. So this is something you should learn. So first make your mindset straight, and then start upskilling on that. So that is
Wow.
something I would say.
And anything in particular which helps, people, which can potentially help people stand out from a CV perspective?
From a CV perspective, I think content writing is one aspect that is very important
Content writing in the relevant space,
in the
right?
relevant space, not just promotional
Yeah.
content writing, but to put it in a way that content writing that impacts.
Correct.
So that is something that you should, upskill yourself so that, you know, you can be confident about it. And talking purely from CV aspects, I am not a, great, I'm not an expert, but from my experience, CV makes a lot of difference. The including the small change in one word makes a lot of difference. That is one of the major things I learned from Rebounce, because how you tune your LinkedIn, how you write your LinkedIn and sorry, CV, and how is it going to impact. So I've tried to before just, flooding the CV with words that are, that are very relevant, but I'm not good at. I try to learn at least the basics of it, and I only included the things that I've understood and learned. So for example, Canva is one uh, software that people look for. So if like, try to learn Canva and then put it in your CV. You should, as I mentioned, writing is something. And Canva, and also communication is not just about writing and designing. It's better you learn about Excel, or such data interpretation, data analysis softwares. It's important you have an idea about it. So these are the things I would recommend or suggest people learning, and then including in the CV to get the better uh, results, I would say.
Great, Yash. Thank you. Thank you. I think that was pretty useful, pretty detailed. Just one final thing. Someone who is still undecided to get out of UPSC and make a career for themselves outside UPSC, and maybe have that this bent, of thinking and mindset around, communications and design and bringing change via communication. What would be your advice to them?
I would say work on your mindset. That is the most important, because I am saying mindset is most important because you're tired of UPSC. You have given all of your potential and you don't see results, so you feel stuck. So that is why, for getting back to the field, getting back into the market, setting your mindset right is very important. So once you have done that, try to upskill. You don't have to, pour lakhs of money to, random courses just because you need, that course, in your LinkedIn or under your name. You don't need that. Right now, all that recruiters care for is not just degrees, but the skills that you learn. When I'll give my I would like to include my personal experience when I got to when I when I was selected to this role. So the JD says 0 to 2 years of experience. I don't have any experience. Pe- and people I'm pretty sure people have 2 years experience must have applied to it.
Okay.
But I am clear on what I want to do. So I only included the skills I've learned, and I made sure whatever I've included in the CV or LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure I know about it. I'm confident of what I have. So that is what led me to, give an interview that confidently, because I am confident on what I learned and what I can contribute to. So mindset is the main thing. And once second is upskilling. Once you learn a skill, get confident of it, no degree can match it. All it just needs is one skill, and you know you striving to get better at it. So that kind of mindset, like no degree can match those things. So that is something I would.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, now that we're talking about degrees, just one more thing from my side. Any thoughts on that? It's very easy for people to sort of make assumptions that, someone was able to do it because of background degree. I won't be able to do it because I don't have a background or a degree. You have a degree in mass comm, you got into communications. What are your thoughts? Is a degree needed in an aligned area to get into communications, or development communication, so to say, or a degree is not needed? What matters is, like you said, mindset, skills, and various other things, and interest, of course.
um, to put it simply, both does work, because my particular degree, that is where I learned about uh, development communication. So it helped me in the ways that I want to think. So it kind of helped me to align my interests. So, but that doesn't mean, not having a degree, will not work for you, because I've seen when I've gone gone through LinkedIn, when I to give you my personal opinion experience. So when I decided that I want to go in communications field, first thing I did is I opened LinkedIn. I searched for communication word. I've checked every profile. I've checked every profile who are right now in leadership positions. Started from communications. At least 60 to 70 percentage of them doesn't have degree in communication related aspect.
I think that just
So
settles the debate.
yes, so that is where I realized
And I
you
think that's also shows that how passionate you ought to be if you want to get into a particular sector. It's not a transactional thing. It's more about having that passion, conviction,
passion.
and
Yes,
working hard. Great. Thank you so much, Yash, for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. All the
thank
very
you,
best for your current role and for your career in general. Do well.
thank you.